Good afternoon, everybody. Out in Facebook land, I hope you're having a great afternoon. Welcome to these Tuesday Tech Talks as we dive into how to use different kinds of technology for ministry. And I know we're still changing and things continue. If you're like me, it feels like every couple weeks things just tend to shift right now and change, and we're adapting. But this technology is not going anywhere. And today we're going to look at something that could have a really great impact on your ministry, and it's free. Right? I love free tools. It's one of the things I'm passionate about because our budgets aren't the biggest as far as church goes. And so finding free, effective tools is one of the best things we can do. And so today, in order to walk us through this, I'm going to bring in my friend Steve Hoffman, one of the most detailed guys I know. In fact, Steve, it's good to have you. Without you, we couldn't do what we do around here at North Hills. And I'm glad you're with us. So we're going to talk about Google for nonprofits, right?
Yes, we are. Yes. Yeah.
Great. And so Google for Nonprofits is this free thing you can sign up for, and it opens up all sorts of different possibilities. Walk me through a few of the benefits of Google for nonprofits. What are, like, you can have, everybody can have a Google account, but there's literally this thing, Google for nonprofits, correct?
Yes, there is. This is a program that they've offer for any 501c3 organization. And when you sign up for this, it opens up a whole host of tools you can use. You may be familiar with some of the Google Doc spreadsheets, what they used to call G Suites. Now they call Workspace. Um, what they have done through Google Nonprofits is that if you have set up an account through your church or your organization, you can set up unlimited number of users under that account. And with that, each one of them gets the full workspace suite of applications, Google Docs, spreadsheets, Hangouts, the chat features, Google Drive. And with Google Drive, rather than being limited to your 10 or 15 gigabytes that they normally give you, each user gets 30 gigabytes for free. And then for a nominal amount, if you wanted to, you can go up to a couple terabytes, depending on what your need is for your organization, obviously for storage. But each user gets 30, and then the organization gets 30, and each one of those can all be linked and shared and put together, so you can share documents and work together as an organizational structure rather than as a team rather than as individuals. So that's one of the really cool features. Also with YouTube, because that's owned by Google, there's a whole host of things that you get with YouTube. You get, I was just looking at this here a second ago. So back up one page. They're giving you the ability that you can fundraise through Google. You can actually tag your videos to your web page.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, hang on, let me shut this off. I forgot to play this little audio track. Um, so they allow you to link your web page directly to each video by putting in these things they call tags. Um, there's
So you could
some
actually take whatever content, if you put your worship service, you could have something pop up that links directly to your donations page on your website.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And multiple tags. I think you can do up to 5 different tags on a video. So you could have one go to your welcome page. You could have one go to your giving page. If you have an announcement section or a calendar, you can have a tag go up for that. So at different points during your service, when you talk about that, you can have those little tags show up on the video, and it will send them to those appropriate links.
That's awesome.
So,
Amazing.
yeah, so
All
that's one
for
of the
free.
really cool things. All for free. All for free. Also, one of the things that we haven't used at North Hills, but we might want to start considering is that they are offering also grant money for advertising. And I think it is. Let me look to make sure I get the right number here. Is through their ad grants program, and I think it's up to 10,000 in-kind donation. I think. Hang on. Where is it? I should have had this up here earlier. It is.
How
Where is
amazing.
it? Anyway,
Google can
they give
help
you
us advertise, basically.
exactly. So if you have an event coming up or whatever, you can actually apply for these grants, and they give you an annual, $10,000. I'm sorry, $10,000 per month for search ads. So yeah, so that's one of the really cool things for your
And
organization.
I'm sure
So there's
you probably have to qualify for various things,
yeah,
but
some things, yes,
they're probably
yeah,
not going to just pump your church up or whatever. But if you have an event like we just did we just did a mental health event, a mental health summit
right,
online. So that would have probably been something I would assume that might qualify for that kind of a grant, or some
right.
kind of
It's very
health things
possible.
that we do, or
Right.
family building, parenting classes, marriage marriage stuff that we do might qualify for that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, there is an application process you have to go through for each event, and you tell them, you describe what it is that you're doing, and then they'll either grant it or not grant it. But yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But
that's
it is something
amazing.
certainly to check to look into. Yeah, we haven't actually taken advantage of it, so I'm not exactly sure all the details how that works out, but it is
Right.
one of the features of it. Yeah.
And you can only do that if you're already registered then for a Google nonprofit.
Correct. Which is the fun part of this whole process is that registration process.
Well, there's a lot of benefits. So if it's a
There
little
is a lot of benefits.
convoluted, it's
It is.
worth it in the end, right?
It is, and that's why we wanted to do this, because I've kind of gone through that whole convolution and I figured out what the problems are. So I want to kind of share that as we go along, is how to actually go through this. It'll save you a lot of headache. Just so you know, it took me 3 attempts to get this approved, and before I figured out exactly what we needed to do, and it actually all came down to basically because of our organizational structure of being affiliated entities with a major denomination, is trying to figure out how do we navigate that to let them know, yes, we are a 501c3 when we don't actually have our own quote unquote tax ID number as North Hills
Right.
Church. So,
The
but
name
I
and
figured
tax
that a
ID
process
don't
that
match.
exactly, and that's what took several attempts to get through that, to figure out what I had to get that to work. And so I know how to make that work. So we'll
Cool.
share
So,
that
out of
with everybody.
curiosity, just because I
Yeah.
know data been a big thing for us, we've got like
Hmm.
our Dropbox is literally like packed. At one point
Correct.
I had to take some things out of it. So,
Correct.
because there's
Correct.
so much in there. If we paid the small fee to raise the organization to 2 terabytes, does that also give all of our users 2 terabytes?
I think that's on a per user basis,
That's a
but
per user.
we're
Okay.
talking like it's like $3 a month for a 1 terabyte, something like that. So
Okay.
it's a not, so
That's
you
pretty
might
low.
put it on certain users that you might have, like if you've got a video team or somebody is creating large files and needs storage, that put it on them. But for maybe the accounting department, they could get by with 30 gigabytes. That's plenty for their whatever
Yeah.
documents and stuff. So you would spread that around and use that appropriately, I
And
would think.
adding and
Yeah.
removing accounts is fairly simple. So
It is.
as churches go through, and they have their nominating committee or however it is that they appoint people, they can insert and take out different accounts
Right.
as
So
those
when you
change.
sign up, whoever is the set up as the administrator of the account, they have an administrator console and they can go in and add, delete people fairly easily. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Already love like Google Drive and I love Google Sites, and
Right.
there are so many tools. We use the Google Analytics to kind of measure what we're doing. Of
Right.
course, YouTube is a huge, amazing thing. So this
Right.
is great. This is really great stuff. I'm gonna bring in when you're ready your screen a little bit, and I think we're gonna kind of walk. Hopefully, like everybody, like if you're in, what is it? Do you have? You can write down below in the comments. Do you have a Google account? Does your church have one? I know I've seen some pastors reaching out saying, "Hey, I signed up for this thing and I did it under my personal email, and I'm not going to be around, but if I give them my login, then they're going to have access to all my stuff." This is the kind of thing that helps prevent that that potential struggle, because you can have one account and you can assign users and people can share various files and materials and resources and access to things like YouTube, um, uh, so that it's tied to the church, not to a pastor's personal email, which is one
Yeah.
of those problems that comes up.
Yeah, you'll actually get a whole new Google account when you sign up for this, because we already had a church Google account, and then when I signed up for this, they took that and added GNP at the end of the name for a group nonprofit or Google nonprofit. So it actually
Okay.
create a whole new user account under the nonprofit.
So there'd be that admin account, and they're basically telling you use this as your admin.
Exactly, yeah. And then
Okay.
that ties everything together, yeah, through that
Wow.
account.
So
Yeah.
if you're a pastor and you've had some of those issues with access, and you want to figure out how to digitally create a shared team with shared resources to create media, to create pictures, even to just make your bulletin, you could make your bulletin something simple like that in Google. Is that Google Docs
Uh,
or whatever that's called on Google Drive?
yeah. There's so many of them. There's the Google
There
Drive.
are.
There's yeah. There's like when you get this,
So
there's also I went to the resource tab. It is like 15 or 20 different. You get Google Sites if you want to create your own website. It's all included. So yeah.
and we built I built the Heart and Mind website recently for the church. I built that literally. It took me maybe an hour, and it was super
Yeah.
intuitive. It's a great beginner way to build a website. So very
Yeah.
intuitive. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of great stuff that we can do with Google. And yeah, it's free. So Steve, I'm gonna have you kind of walk us through. We're gonna go over to Steve's computer
Yeah.
here, and he's gonna kind of walk us all through the process of what you need to do if you want your church to have it costs nothing, zero. It's
Correct.
free. Uh,
It's free.
so there's no reason why, if you're tuned in, if your church doesn't have one of these, at least for the future's sake, you should get one. You should get certified as a nonprofit with Google, and this is how you need to do that, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna
Correct.
jump on over, Steve. We're gonna share your screen, and you can walk us through that process.
Okay. So the first thing you need to do in order to get this going is there's a website called TechSoup, as in soup that you eat. TECHSOUP.org. It's a nonprofit organization, and they are basically the clearinghouse that Google uses to qualify you as a nonprofit to sign up for this. And this is one of the things that kind of I had to discover in the 3 attempts that I made, that you go through this organization. And again, it's also free because they're a nonprofit. And the great thing about TechSoup is not only do you get to use it for this, but they also are a great place if you need to buy software for your church. This is a great resource to do it, because basically they get software. You'll see down at the bottom of my screen, you see Microsoft, Adobe, Intuit, and several other companies, that they get software donated to them by these companies to distribute out to nonprofit organizations. So if you need the Microsoft Office suite, you can get it here, and you just pay a nominal administrative fee. Usually I think for the 365 you pay like I think it's like $5 or something like that administration fee, and then they give you a license to use that software. And so it's like on a per user basis. So if you need 1 or 2 or 3 copies of that app, you'd pay $5 for each one. And different things. Adobe is much more expensive, but it's also about a third the price of what you'd pay if you actually went and bought this from the Adobe suite from them as well. So anyway, so this site has other benefits beyond Google, but we'll just talk about Google. So what you want to do for this site, I think at the end of this, we're going to share a document, because all this stuff is kind of detailed, but it gets a little bit convoluted. But we're going to give you a sheet at the end. It's going to give you all the steps that you need to go through this process, including for TechSoup, and then also when you get qualified over on Google. And so we'll share that at the end. But basically, you'll use this site to go through, and you will go through. There's a process of going through and getting qualified as a nonprofit. When you go through this process, um, you're going to get to a point where they're going to ask you for your tax ID and your information. This is where it gets to be a little tricky. I wish I could show this to you, but I can't because we're not actually going to be setting up a nonprofit. But I'm going to tell you, when you go through it, it's under the resource tab, and there will be a place where you can go and create to get qualified for nonprofit status. You're going to want to use, this is where I found, this is the key, is you want to use the General Conference's tax ID number. Don't use the Southern California Conference. That didn't work. Ours was our first one. Southern California Conference was my second attempt. That didn't work. The General Conference tax ID number is the key. You want to use that one. And when you go through, you're going to say you're an affiliated entity. And that's also very key to say that. And in the sheet that I give you is the General Conference's tax ID number. It's easily found. You can just kind of Google General Conference Seventh-day Adventist tax ID number, and it'll show up on the screen because there's a organization called GuideStar that is a kind of a clearinghouse for nonprofits. Then they track all nonprofits around in the United States, and that's where the information is found. But anyway, it's going to be included in the sheet that we're going to distribute. So when you go in, you'll put in your information of your church, your name, your church's name, your church's address, your contact information, all that for you. But for the tax ID number, you're going to want to use a General Conference tax ID number. Now, once you do that, it can take up to 7 days to get approved, and you will then get an email with that. And then once you get that email that says you're approved, then come back to TechSoup, and it can take, like I said, up to 7 days. You can come back to TechSoup, and you'll complete the process of going through. And what you're going to be asking for is the Google Nonprofit setup, and you'll find that again under. You're looking for a thing called validation tokens, and that will be also under the resource tab. Once you go there, you'll put in the information. You'll go ahead and complete that information again, and it'll then give you at the end, you'll get an actual like it's a 7-digit, no, it's an 8-digit number with an @ sign and then your organization's name at the end of it. And that'll be in the email that you'll get. Once you complete this validation token application, they'll send you an email and it'll have that token in it. And that token is good for 60 days. So once you get that token, then you need to go, as soon as you can, go to the Google Nonprofits and start that application process. And when you do that, you'll just go to google.com/nonprofits, and you'll go ahead and just start the process of applying for that. And once you get applied, once you are successful, then you'll get the ability to log in, and you'll come to this page here, which is our nonprofits page, and it shows you which applications that you have qualified for getting. So we have, like for us, we have Google Workspace for Nonprofits. We have the Ad Grant program that we talked about, the YouTube program, and then they have some other ones, Google Maps, where you can do some enhanced mapping on their Google Maps for your organization, and then the Google Analytics for the enhanced analytics for your website and traffic tracking. This process can take anywhere from 1 to 7 days once once you go in and complete the application process. And then you'll get one email that says you're ready to go, and on that email there will be a button that says begin. And what you want to do within 14 days, you want to then go and begin to and activate these applications. The most important one you want to activate is the Google Workspace for Nonprofits. If you don't activate that within 14 days, your account will become inactive, and then you got to kind of go through this real hassle of trying to get it reactivated again, which can take several days and several emails. So you want to just go ahead and get that process going, and you want to activate the Workspace. The other ones aren't so critical, but the Workspace one is. So if you don't activate that, then everything dies after 14 days. when you activate this one, you'll look for two emails that you'll get. One will say that you're ready to go, and the second one will say, let's get started. And that's the one you want to then click on where it says let's get started, because then you got to go through another process shortly. You just have to go in and finish the activation process on the workspace. It's a pretty simple process, but you just need to do it. Yeah, and then you'll just follow the activation instructions on the page when you get it. It's fairly simple, but you just need to do it, otherwise everything dies. So once you get through that process, then you're good to go. And once you're good to go, you will get to be able to see access to all these applications. So you'll have access to the calendar. They have this Google Classroom, which is kind of like a teaching app. It's like a whiteboard. They got the Google Drive and the Google Docs, Gmail, Google Chats and Hangouts, Google Meets, a couple other Keep, which is another simple storage thing. Google Sites for website development, and Google Tasks for assigning, doing projects and things like that, project management. So you get access to all those different things. And unfortunately, I wish I could show you a little bit more of the step-through process, but because we're already activated, I really can't, and we're not really actually setting up an actual nonprofit setup. But if you follow the documentation that we're going to provide with you, it gives you pretty much a step-by-step process to go through how to actually do it.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
I actually added the document. It is in our Facebook group. If you just go to up at the top header, go to files. Just go to files, and there's creating a Google account for nonprofits. That PDF is there. You can download it. You can just follow those steps. If you have any issues at all, you can reach out. If we don't know the answer, we'll ask Steve. And so we'll try and figure out how each of these different pieces all fit together for you too. But it should be, if you follow those step-by-step instructions, you stay on schedule, don't miss that 14-day window, things like that. You should be able to have access to this with more free Google Drive space, with access to Maps and Google Drive and website design and YouTube functionality and all sorts of different things at your fingertips. And this could really, truly change the access that your church has to a lot of different tools. We'll do throughout our time here. We'll do different tutorials on some of these tools, how to use them, things like that, so that you can know what it is you now have access to.
Right.
But please take a moment and look and see what it is that your church has, and the potential that you have here, because I think it can make just such a big difference. And Steve, thanks for putting that guide together. That's a huge
Oh, you're
shout out to
welcome.
Steve. That's
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't know where to go find the GC's, General Conference's tax ID number and things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Just again, that TechSoup, you can do it without doing through TechSoup, which is what I tried the first time. But I ran into a real problem because there was no way for Google to get around our affiliation to get it approved that we were a nonprofit. I went back and forth with emails with them and trying to explain it to them. I even sent a copy of our determination letter from the conference. That didn't work. I tried everything, but by going through TechSoup, getting approved through them is a lot easier because their bar is a little bit lower apparently than Google's, but it's acceptable. And then using the GC's tax ID number. Those were the two key things to
okay.
make this work. Yeah.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And I know TechSoup. So not only did you find a free tool today, you found out about TechSoup, and that's going to save you money. So if you tuned in
Mm-hmm.
today, or if you're watching this afterwards, you just saved money for your church budget. That's more money to put
Yeah.
into ministry. That's everybody wants that. Uh, everybody wants
Yep.
that. So I know we use that's where we get our Adobe subscription from, and
Yep.
and I'm in Adobe every single day of my life, pretty
Yeah.
much. So we love that stuff, and so hopefully this is super useful for all of you as you're taking a look. Steve, any other last tips on on this stuff that you can think of?
Um,
Things that they should keep in mind, or benefits, like a benefit that you really want to emphasize, that hey, this is really why every church in our conference or
right.
around should really have one of these.
Right. One of the other things I didn't mention was with YouTube is I know in order to get set up in a way that you can get seen out in the public, you need to have a certain threshold normally of a number of viewers or subscribers to your channel. This gets around that process. So if you get approved here, you don't have to have a minimum number of subscribers. I think on the giving, I read it was a little bit of some conflicting information. I read one place where you get it. I got to read another place you got to have 10,000 subscribers to get it. So I'm not really exactly sure what threshold you need to get at for that one thing to work. But from what it appears to, though, through Google Nonprofits, we don't have that 10,000 threshold in order to do fundraising. But
That's awesome. I
yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
could do, as
yeah,
a church, you could put out a devotional and have people give towards it if
yeah.
they found value to it. You could do
Right,
fundraising if you had a capital campaign of some kind. You could create little videos and always have that capital campaign giving moment, or like we said
right,
earlier, just your regular worship service and your tithe and offering donations.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
right.
that's can be very practically used.
Right. One other thing is for Google, if you want to use Google, is it Hangouts? Is that that's their video chatting software? I believe it is. You can do up to 100 viewers with this for free.
It's a
You can have
Zoom
100.
account for free.
Exactly. Basically, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
So.
right.
So there's a bunch of little things that like some of these things you can use that depending on the size of your church may be beneficial, may not be so much, but still it's there, it's free. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Can't
yeah.
complain about
Or
that.
maybe even one of your smaller ministries within the church might be able to use something like that, or you never know. So
Guarantee your high school ministry, your student ministry, whatever, they'll make some use of this.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And
yeah,
any kind of marketing stuff, man, data storage today is the new public storage, right? So
right,
there's always a need. The
right,
history, I know we had an amazing member take some time and like scan all of our old photos as a church, and just having a place to store the history of your church. That
exactly,
we've got that for free from Google Drive. There you go. There
right,
should be plenty of room to store all the photos,
all
your
right.
documentation.
You could set up a user called Photos, and then get 30 gigabytes just for that photo storage for free.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's all kinds
absolutely.
of things you could do how you could make this work very well and not make cost you anything. So
Set up
yeah,
one called board. You could track all of the board minutes. They could always
right,
be there for whoever wanted,
right,
as boards wanted to look back. There you go. You could
right.
even
And
search
you
them.
can Right, and you can set the privacy on those too. So if you only want, like, we keep our accounting backup files are stored on our site, but it's under a secured password protected directory, and so you can secure those areas, and you can share certain directories with just certain people. So
Hmm.
there's the security is pretty good on the shared drives too. So yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah,
Well, I hope everybody tuning in. I hope you got excited. Spin on over to TechSoup. Get that first step started. Apply
yeah,
on TechSoup today. Download the guide from the Facebook, our Facebook group here. Just go to files, like I said at the top up here. Go up there, and up above us will be. You might have to click the more button if it's not expanded wide enough. Click more. You'll find files, and there's only two files right now uploaded. There's our guidelines for streaming, and then there's this file. So download the PDF, follow it step by step, get the TechSoup process started today, and very shortly you'll be on your way to a Google for Nonprofits account, and your church will have the benefit of all of these free tools. So thank you, Steve, for hanging out with us
you're
today.
welcome.
This is
You're welcome.
just amazing. So thanks for
Yeah,
for
My
all the
pleasure.
work I know that you poured into getting this ready for us.
Sure, no problem. Happy to do it.
So if find somebody detail oriented in your church. Find yourself a Steve. But Steve's ours over here at North Hills right now. So, but let us know. We would love to have any of your questions to answer. Just enjoy and take that process. See where it leads your ministry. Again, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, as I know Icky has a special guest for us next week as well. So thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your afternoon.